there are times when we think God needs help, that we create a bigger problem instead of a solution for ourselves. And it happens that when God has the perfect plan, we will actually slow it down by getting in the way. How do you know when it is the right time to help or not to help? When Shaun Gartman's mother saw in a vision an open sewer and Shaun walking towards that, she wanted to run and rescue him. But instead she felt Jesus putting a hand on her shoulder and saying, "Don't. He needs the experience." It must have been the hardest thing or the hardest decision she ever made when she saw her 16-year-old run to a circus and trying to fix life his own way. Today, Shaun is known as a Joseph to the Sacramento community and beyond. He co-founded Pop It Forward and 510 Concessions, and he has years of experience in the mission field overseas. In regional ministry and in counseling, he has done as well. Today, he co-directs City Prayer Leaders Fellowship, and as a board member for Pray California, Shaun is also the director of Team 187, which is a ministry dedicated to bringing justice worldwide through night and day intercession. Wow, you just think about that and you're wondering, there's a lot of injustice taking place and there are a lot of needs out there. And today's show is really about not to get in the way of God, but to allow Him to work. Shaun, it must have been so hard for your mom. Why did you run?
My mom was struggling with marriage relationships, and my third father was they met in Bible college, and to me, from my perspective at that time, I felt that he was really religious, and I went from an atheist father to a very religious father, and for me, I couldn't take it anymore as a 16-year-old. I'd also really got into some pretty deep rebellion, and so by that time, I just didn't want anything to do with it, and I ended up actually being told I was going to go to church by him, and since I didn't see him as an authority in my life, I picked up an actual pipe out of the garage and threatened him, and as a little 16-year-old, very much misjudged the situation because he's about 6'3" or 6'4", and that pole was out of my hands in seconds, and I just absolutely begrudgingly ended up in church, and it started right there, and I just went, I'm not going to do this, and I wanted to be my own king or whatever. I don't know. I wanted to be my own man.
Sounds like you were super confused with your real dad, your biological dad, saying one thing.
Yeah. Well, my biological dad, my mom left him at 3, and that's a whole other part.
So you
of
don't
the
remember him too much.
At that time, yeah, no, not at all. I mean, we've since reconnected, and that's been a beautiful part. But yeah.
Wow. So you run away to a circus. Your mom has a vision.
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine her.
Yeah.
Not stopping you.
Yeah.
Why the open sewer vision?
Well,
that sounds pretty gross.
From her vision for me and her idea of what it would look like, she really thought that I was going to end up in Bible college, and I was just headed in an opposite direction, and so the things that she saw were really dark, and honestly, when I got to the circus, as glorious and magical as it sounds, it really has a lot of darkness, and there's a lot of drugs.
Really, because we just see
the
performance, and
right.
It's
You
fun.
Get this exactly,
and look at the animals and this and that.
It's exactly that. It's a performance.
Really. So what were you doing there? Because you're a 16-year-old kid. What can you do in a circus as a 16-year-old not grown up in that environment?
At 13, I ran into a magician who lived down the street from us, and I didn't know, but he was really one of the more renowned magicians in the whole region, and I began to study underneath him. So I studied for 3 years, and then when I had run away, I wasn't planning on joining the circus. I was in Oregon actually traveling back home, There was a seasonal job that had opened up. My mom got a hold of me, and on the way home, a big rainbow bus with My Family Circus written on the side picked me up. And by the time we got to the place in Roseburg, Oregon, which is a wildlife safari park they were performing at, they put me on stage that day. I was already enough of a performer, and I was with them for about 2.5 years. We traveled up and down California, from Washington to California, and then from Washington all the way to New York.
And all the time, your mom's praying for you and sees 0 results.
I guess I should have sent her knee pads for Christmas, but
Wow.
exactly. Not everything, but I think that having the Lord give her that vision really let her know that He was in charge, that He had a hold of it.
Why is it that we always expect God to give us the answers instantly? Because it's comfort.
Yeah.
So then what happened? Because you're obviously sitting right here in the chair. So a transformation, something took place. Was it your mom that constantly kept probing, like I do with my daughter? Hey, what about this? Or what about that?
No, there really wasn't.
And it doesn't work.
She was pretty hands off. I think it was knees on, hands off. I mean, and I didn't really know that piece was going on, but my mom was pretty fervently praying for me, and so my birthday came around in 1985, August of 1985, and she ended up getting me a Bible. I was entertaining at Universal Studios down in Los Angeles, and I got this Bible, and I don't know, right around that time, things started to fall apart. As I was a member of Magic Castle, and they started to fall apart.
Now, why? Because you seemed gifted.
I couldn't put my finger on it. I think there's times when God takes something we've grabbed a hold of, or something that's grabbed a hold of us, and He begins to pull. And I think that's what was happening. And I mean, I know that because He's done it twice to me now, and I have one much more recent where He began to pull something away. Because He had something new.
I'm going to stop you right there. And that might be you too. When God pulls something away, a window opens. Stay tuned. There's a lot more to this, and you're going to like it. There are many times that while I was mentoring in juvenile hall that I would hear the word, "Shut up." And I was like, what? And I was just like, what are you? And it kind of threw me, right? But it wasn't a negative, it was actually a positive. And I am here to tell you right now, shut up. He did what? And we're talking about God right now. We are going to start radio. We want to bless you, we want to encourage you, and even if you're on the road or just at home doing cleaning or whatever, we now want to minister to you in a brand new way. And it's not like we asked for it, it was basically offered to us. So what is that going to mean? That you're going to hear real situations that will encourage you, that will bless you, that will strengthen you, and that will help you. And that will help you to see that you too can start living the abundant life and no longer have to stay stuck. barbtv.org to find out how. What happens when you know what God wants you to do, but you choose to go your own direction? And we all fall for that. Jonah found that out the hard way by ending up in a bad storm in the belly of a fish, as the Bible tells you. But are we not all falling for wanting to do it my way? With me is Shaun, who had favor from the Lord and then let it go. So Shaun, before we get to that favor from the Lord, you already had favor because He never gave up on you. How did it finally take you to turn around to say, wait, God, I want you?
Yeah, and I'd lost my job at Universal Studios, and my world started to spiral. And I threw a really interesting question out to the Lord. I was smoking cigarettes. By this time, I was smoking about a pack a day. And I said, God, if you're really real, I would like you to help me stop smoking cigarettes.
That's a challenge God won't let you down on. He will take that on.
I had no idea. Literally the next day, I I was so repulsed. I guess these patches that you can put on will make it to where you're nauseated around cigarettes. It was as if I had a supernatural patch, and I didn't want to put it in that category. I didn't want to give God credit for it, because so I really, actually, I'm telling you, I really kind of put it into this like psychosomatic thing that I had done to myself. But God, and He's so relentless. I've heard Him called the Hound of Heaven, and I think at this time He was really coming after me. Because he had a calling. He had His dream, and so I didn't actually stop with drugs. I was still smoking pot, and I mean, just I was really caught up. I was caught up in the world in such a deep way, and but a month later, in November of 1985. My mom got a hold of me and said, would you like to go see David Wilkerson? And he had impacted me at a young age with The Cross and the Switchblade. And I said yes. And so my mom came down. She tells me of the story of driving down, and she was with another intercessor. And
oh wow, you were set up, man.
And they were praying so intensely on the way. My mom said she'd catch herself going 85. This is back in the 55 days, right?
Right.
And but we got there, and so what she didn't tell me is that it was Women's Aglow. And
you were there with a bunch of women?
20,000. Now I'm 20. I'm 20. Okay, so for me, I'm like, this is cool, me and 20,000 women,
Wow.
And so it was David Wilkerson and John Wimber
and
of the
who
began the Vineyard movement. And they both got up and shared, and both of them gave altar calls, and people were streaming down. And I'm telling you, I believe if I went to that arena today in Orange County, I could go to my chair and there would actually be divots in the concrete.
Why?
Because I dug my heels in.
Why?
I don't know.
You felt the calling.
Oh, did I feel
And you're
it?
like, no.
Yeah, and I mean, I just literally just
But God
dug
doesn't
in.
give up that easy.
4 days later.
What happened?
4 days later, I was walking up to my room just after I was entertaining that night, just a small group of people, and I just felt like, what was this all for? And why am I here? It's like the prodigal. I started to feel the feelings of the prodigal.
Wow.
Like, what have I gotten myself into? I could be in favor, and I could be. I wasn't thinking home yet. Trust me. I just began to. Here's what I said as I went to walk in my studio. I said, God, I don't even know where to start. So I need your help. And when I walked into my studio, I was pretty startled because even though I was a magician, I was also a thief.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so I had stolen. I could steal clothes. I would give a fake business card out, and
really?
Yeah. And so I
usually I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
but if you keep stealing, and if God would want to get your attention, it's like almost like when a child bites you, almost want to bite it back just to realize what it feels like.
Here's the way he did it. Well, as soon as I walk in the room, I could look at any object that was in my room that was stolen, ill-gotten gain. And when I looked at it, if I had taken something, let's say you had trusted me and let me in your house, and I had taken something from you, I would see your face, and I would see...
That's creepy.
No, but I would see you looking at me like I trusted you. And it was just this face. In Les Miserables, there's that scene with and and that was the look that I was being given. And it didn't matter whether it was a store clerk who I had taken clothes from, or anyone who I had, and so I could literally look around the room at anything, and I would see their face. And I just began to ask the Lord, I don't even know what to do with all this. And the way I word it is, I reached up to heaven, and asked God to take my hand, and instead he picked me up by my feet and began to just kind of shake some stuff out of my life. And so I took all that I had gotten, the ill-gotten gain, and I couldn't return it because much of it was during my travels, and so, but I packed it all up. And I factored down to, I had a backpack and a sleeping bag and just a few other things that I had been given. And I got rid of them. Went to read my Bible that my mom had given me for my birthday. Wow. And I opened it up and I found this little passage just when I opened it that said, you know, there are people who will mock you and laugh at you because of me. And it was Jesus speaking. And I put it away, and I got up. I even flushed my pot down the toilet.
Wow.
And the next morning I got up, and when I got up, one of the gals from the building down below, the house down below, she came up the walk, and she said, "Oh, Shaun, do you have any of that, the pot from last night?" And I said,
down the toilet.
I said, "No, I actually, believe it or not, I had an incredible encounter with the Lord last night with Jesus, and I flushed it down the toilet."
And guess what? Sometimes we just have to flush things down to the toilet. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
Hi there, this is Glenn Matthew on Barb TV. And I'm happy to have been here today and shared with Barb. She's awesome. I just want you to be sure and help her out, because she is very, very on spot with what she's doing. She's encouraging the body of Christ. She's bringing live the people that are in the body doing the work. And she is making it so that you can have it come right to your screen, right to your phone, right to your iPad. And so invite her in. Invite her into your home. Invite her into your heart. That's Barb TV.
So Shaun, you turn things around and you realize you got the pot down the toilet. People are asking you for it, and now you have to fess up to your new faith.
Oh, yeah.
No fun.
No. Well, I just openly did it.
Okay.
I mean, in other words, I felt so free from what had happened the night before, and the Lord just kind of taking where I was and kind of digging me out.
Yeah.
And she approached me and asked if I had any of the pot from the night before, since I had entertained and provided more than the entertainment. And I said, no, I actually flushed it down the toilet. And she said, why'd you do that? And I said, well, I gave my heart to Jesus. And she says, you mean like you're like a Jesus freak? And I started to almost backpedal internally, and then she began to skip down the sidewalk to the main house, literally out loud, almost skipping, saying, Shaun's a Jesus freak, Shaun's a Jesus. I stood there with my jaw just open like, oh, it's not gonna be like this. Please tell me it's not gonna be like this. And then the Lord reminded me what he had showed me the night before. And he told me, Shaun, they're not mocking you, they're mocking me.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, I don't even know what to do, Lord. And he says, go home. And I was like, oh, time out. When I was home last, I had threatened my stepdad's life. That's not gonna...
But that was like 4 years earlier.
I know, but still, it was fresh in my mind. And I just said, Lord, how? And he says, trust me.
And you actually could hear him audibly talk? How did you know that was the Holy Spirit
This
leading
is
you?
early on, and my mom has operated in the prophetic for most of her life, and so it was normal for me. It's as if, many of the people that are here probably on camera can hear things in their ear, and for me, it's not an audible. It's not like a voice that's in the room, but it's definitely, he's in my spirit.
See, I didn't
There's
even
been times
know
where he's...
about that till 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then totally, I said,
He'll
Lord, I
speak
want
to us.
more of you. I'm a bored Christian.
Amen.
I'm just so bored. And people are like, what's wrong with you? I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm bored. Give me something I don't know.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, the whole new world. It
Yeah.
started all over again, because when you can hear him,
Yeah.
it's no longer you, it's him.
Yeah.
So it changes. So you went home?
Yeah, he provided a way for me to get home, and my parents opened the door
wow.
to me, and it probably was about, I came and I began to work for the Hilton Hotel. Here I am, a 20-year-old.
Perfect.
And I'm going to clean my life up. I'm going to go into the Navy. I'm in adult school now, getting something beyond my GED. And I'm working as a magician at the Hilton Hotel, and I start having a series of dreams, and in these dreams, in some way, shape, or form, the magic feels like it's being taken from me. But it's the Lord, and it's very gentle, you know, like we're traveling along, and he's my magic. I was a close-up artist, and I have a little bag that has all my little things that I would, and he would drive off with it. And so, but different metaphors, and so finally I got done with the metaphors and said, Lord, if you really want me to give up magic, help me understand. Give it to me in plain English. And so, and I don't recommend this because this is a very, very sacred book.
Yeah.
But at the time, I
flipped
needed
it
an
open?
answer. And he knows.
I've had many times that was exactly when the artist is like, wait a minute, let me get somewhere else, you know?
Yeah, you
So-
can't put it in the word, you can't put it in the category
But
of
there is
coincidence.
times that it is divine.
And this was one of those. And I opened it up, and it said, I believe it's in Jeremiah, it said, take out your idols and crush them, or in the end they'll bite like a snake. And I'm immediately almost in an argument with the Lord going, magic's not an idol for me. And he goes, well, Shaun, he says, your life is more centered around it than it is around me. Phew.
Wow.
And so I challenged him, and I said, okay, well, I need more clarity. And I opened it again, and this time it said, take heed to my words, or in the end I'll seek you out through tribulation.
You challenged God and he opened
Just
it.
like Gideon. I didn't go 3 times. After that, I did not go a 3rd time. I simply, and when it said, take heed, or I will seek you out through tribulation, I closed it.
Did you quit your job?
I didn't just quit my job. I took this bag, I crawled up into my parents' attic, and I pushed this bag all the way up into the attic. And it's still there to this day because it's an unused attic. And they don't own the house anymore. So if somebody's cleared out the attic, there's this.
It's gone.
And that night, I was in my parents' study on the couch, and the room filled with light. I was very aware of what was happening. I was on my side, and I was being physically held.
Oh.
And so it was a full encounter of the Lord, and I know that there's some who've had this happen. And I felt the love of the Lord. Every cell of my body was being told, I love you at the same time. And I simply, through tears and just seeing him as light and embrace, and it felt like it lasted for 3 minutes or so. And then as the encounter was over, I just immediately reached over and plugged in the light, and my Bible was on the floor, right where the column of light was.
Wow.
And so I stood up, jumped up, and I began at the top of my lungs to shout, I love you, Jesus. It's 3 a.m.
Ooh.
And I mean, if you were within a couple block radius, as a 20-year-old, I've got a pretty serious voice, and I bet you people within about a couple block radius, they heard. And my parents came rushing into the room trying to find out what was going on, and I'm in tears because I have been encountered.
Wow. And God called you in that moment. What happened next?
Well, I joined the Navy, and the phrase Indian giver, it's a little bit political, but I think it's more about us as a nation offering something to the Indians and then taking it back, or the Native Americans. And I felt like I had laid that down, but then I took it back up, and I began to dabble with it. And as I went into the Navy, I carried on the magic, and it took me. Here's the main thing about being a magician. People ask me, "Oh, well, why don't you do it today?" Magic is simply control, manipulation, and deceit. Now, what's weird is we pay for it. We
We think it's fun.
we like it because it's fun, and But it really is control, manipulation, and deceit. And I have completely let it go. But it took me until 1997.
Now, Shaun, you're an amazing man today of God, and you're doing a lot of good out there.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to get a hold of you, do you have a website where they could reach you?
We have a ministry that I'm a part of as the leader, as you mentioned before, Prayer Leaders Fellowship, and that is Acts Online.
Okay, so they can find you right there.
And so they could search on the Acts group in Sacramento.
Thank you for sharing reality on a reality show.
Come on.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
You bet.
And then just want to end quickly with you and share with you a little section which kind of goes about the show today, which is out of 2 Timothy chapter 4, which is in the Bible. And it says, "For a time is coming when people will no longer listen to sound and wholesome teaching." And we have all been there. "They will follow their own desires and will look for teachers who will tell them whatever their itching ear wants to hear. They will reject the truth and chase after myths. But you," and this is for you, my friend, "but you should keep a clear mind in every situation. Don't be afraid of suffering for the Lord. Work at telling others the good news and fully carry out the ministry God has given to you." And if you want to talk to us about that, go to barbtv.org or talk to us by the phone, 855-515-5550. And I am excited about the future and the book that God has written for you. Just know this, that just like Shaun, God will not leave you behind, but you have a choice if you want to make forward. God loves you, and so do I. Have a great day. The amazing thing is, this last week, I actually experienced fear in a new way. And it kind of struck me. I didn't see it coming like that. But I was at home and we had an incredible meeting that was just totally of God. It was awesome. And I remember that night saying, "Enemy, I command you to leave and not backlash me on this." And while thinking about all those things, knowing really nothing, fear started to set in more and more with the consequences of the result of the fear that I really did not know that existed. When fear sets in, if you don't see what God is capable, it will destroy you. And that's exactly what is starting to take place here. To be able to go to the truth, to start reaping it and hold on to the blessings of God. And David saw this. Fight the Philistine with what God has equipped me with.